Hello guys, it is your boy Zal here, back again with another Warframe related video. I know, we're up in the Warframe content as of late and I hope you are enjoying it. Avara is still in the oven, so she's still being cooked and she's going to be ready pretty soon. Once she is, she will be obviously making an appearance and I can actually give my reaction to what she's like and hopefully make a nice little video about it. I can't wait to actually play her, especially with the Dread bow and arrow. That's going to be well, bow essentially. It is a bow, it's not bow and arrow, that's such a childish way of saying things. The bow, Dread bow. But, obviously, we reacted last time to some lore. To some lore. Warframe reaction to lore part 1. Ugh. Don't want to hear myself speak again. And pretty good comments. Some pretty good comments. However, there is a constant reminder on here that I should be looking at this guy's lore. I am someone who is all about lore, and the one video that stuck out to me was Warframe, the entire Warframe timeline. Now it's a 22-minute video, I believe, if that is the video that we're watching, which is his pinned video. It is a video that is top on his channel, which is fair enough. It's a big video, a lot of views. I imagine the ratio on it is also pretty good. Yeah, massively. It is perfect. I mean, look at that. And you guys, I've noticed you guys in the Warframe community just love the content, the Warframe content. I've never seen a community react quite so well to different creators making different content about Warframe, as long as they're on the right path. And even if they're not too sure what the fuck they're doing, you're happy to help in droves and in paragraphs, and it's amazing. I've never seen a community like it, so I'm lucky to have that community on my side. Thank you very much. But stallordD? I've never personally heard of this YouTuber, not in a bad way. I as you can imagine, I don't really look up Warframe videos personally, so I'm not too sure who the people are out there. I know obviously iFlynn is a massive Warframe player, but apart from that, I really don't know. I really have no idea. But what we know, Warframe lore, the entire Warframe timeline. Now this is back from 2017, but obviously I imagine the timeline doesn't really change. I'm sure we're going to see some maybe updates, I would imagine, but yeah, we're gonna give this one some time. We're gonna give this one some time, and hopefully stallordD does not mind me making this video on his content. Obviously I'm a small YouTuber, so if this isn't monetized, there's no ads on here. There shouldn't be any ads on here anyway, unless it gets copyright striked. But there might be ads on here, at which point I am paying other people. Figure that out. But I am really looking forward to watching this video, and it seems to be that he does a lot of different Warframe lore. So much that I haven't looked through it all, but you guys are going to have to link me or tell me what good videos I should watch down below in the comments, please. And then obviously we'll watch them together. We'll take a look. But I'm excited for this because what we know, Warframe lore, the entire Warframe timeline, I imagine this is going to be a lot to consume, but I'm looking forward to it. Let's get straight into it and educate me on Warframe, which I need quite drastically, please.
This video is intended to be a chronological guide to all events in the current Warframe lore. This includes many current events in the system. This does not include currently playable quests, as they clash with the progression order established by prior events. Instead, the list is intended to serve as a way to learn about the events that have shaped the system up to its current state. The placements of events may not be exact, but should be close enough to give a general progression of the timeline. Because of its chronological nature, there are many spoilers throughout the guide, so if you have not completed any quests in Warframe, you have been warned. The story begins when humanity learns of the Void and its properties. Through this knowledge, technology advances at a rapid rate until it becomes what is now known as the Orokin Empire.
I like this already, starting right at the beginning, right at the cusp. We're only 47 seconds in. I like it.
The Empire is ruled by its 7 emperors, omniscient beings shrouded in mystery, hermetic and isolated. 7? Their will is carried out by the Congress of Executors. Most of the solar system is terraformed, and much of empty space is populated with star-worthy tower vessels and ships. The Orokin Empire exists throughout the entirety of the solar system, existing at an elevated position of pride and honor, with life stretching into centuries and technology at an unparalleled state. But in truth, the Orokin Empire is failing, and the Council of Executors hands out harsh punishment as the final say in the system's law. Resources in space are dwindling from a combination of overpopulation and excessive scientific experimentation on the Earth with artificial technocyte life forms. Elite scholars, known as Archimedeans, are enlisted to find a solution called the Plan to the crisis.
Okay.
One such project, the Crewman Project, is deemed a failure, and the Archimedean behind it is sentenced to death. Another project is developed by the Archimedean Parentol, which involves sending small self-replicating machines to the Tau system to terraform it for the Orokin's eventual arrival. Initially, the project is rejected due to such machines violating the 7 principles outlined by the Orokin. But, after some resistance from the Council of Executors and Executor Ballas, the plan is approved, with fears being...
What is this music? I noticed, I think My Name is Biff used it in his video, but at a much more higher level and more... Maybe there's more bass to it. Well, this is more softer. I like it though. Is it a Warframe music? I haven't heard it in Warframe, so... But it sounds like it probably is, right? It probably is if they've both been on Warframe videos. But it's a good little tune. It goes with it well.
Being alleviated by Executor Tavol, and the existence of the Flaw, which makes void energies poison to these synthetic creatures. After the project completes, the Zariman 10-0 is sent on an expedition to colonize Tau. Against protocol, children are also on board the vessel. The void jump from Saturn to the outer terminus fails, stranding the ship in uncharted void space. The adults on board the vessel are driven mad by the exposure to the void, and they roam the ship, sabotaging it and slaughtering others at will. The children, however, are unaffected. They band together and defend themselves against the adults, some opting to hunt them first. One child, Rel, is outcast due to his autism, and he roams the ship alone, developing an acute sensitivity to the void and gains a unique understanding of its properties. For some time, the Zariman drifts in the void, and it is presumed lost. One day, the Zariman reappears from the void. The children on board have been warped by the void and develop volatile powers. The investigator, Kayleen, violates quarantine on the ship and is scarred horribly by a child who cannot control their powers. All of the recovered children from the Zariman have difficulty controlling their powers, and the Orokin are fearful of them, wishing to destroy them. An Archimedean by the name of Margulis shows mercy to the children, loving them unconditionally and yearns to help ease their pain. In the process, she is blinded by the children's rampant power, but persists in her efforts. Margulis develops the somatic pods, devices that allow the children to be placed in a therapeutic-induced sleep and dulls their sensitivity to the void. Through this process, the children's memories of their time on the Zariman are suppressed, and their ability to restrain their power grows. The terraforming machines originally sent to Tau return to the origin system for unknown reasons, the Flaw failing to keep them away. These creatures, now known as the Sentients, are instead left barren and unable to reproduce by the journey, and begin to attack the Orokin in revenge. This marks the beginning of the Old War. The Old War is a one-sided battle in the Sentients' favor, as Orokin high technology is assimilated and resisted. Further, the Sentients are able to withstand death itself due to them somehow acquiring Oro. However, an early attack on an asteroid mining facility near the outer terminus leads to the discovery of the...
It's an awful lot to take in. It's very heavy lore, but it's a good description of what's happening. It's good, he's very good. He's good at educating me, people that have no idea.
The Sentient's weakness to archaic weaponry. The Grineer slave to inadvertently discover this is used for future cloning batches, and Grineer soldiers are utilized as well as the standard DAC soldiers to support the wartime efforts. Due to the Sentient's nature at resisting standard weaponry, other avenues of combat are explored, one being the Technocyte super soldier experimentation. The Technocyte project fails as the golems are uncontrollable, but it is discovered that the children of the Zariman can interface with the golems through the somatic link in a process called transference. The Archimedean Sylvanus, tasked by the Orokin to recover the Earth from the Technocyte
Sylvanus? Now haven't we seen her somewhere before? I'm sure we have.
poison, is recruited by Margulis to assist with the Zariman children and transference therapy. Sylvanus and Margulis are drafted to the Warframe development project and are tasked with creating new forms of destruction for the Zariman children to wield. This task causes Sylvanus immense grief, and she plots to betray the Orokin.
Yeah, it's a pretty shitty move, isn't it? Making children who can barely control these crazy powers, and then asking them to transfer their life force into a Warframe, I guess, or Golem, or... It's a bit shitty making children fight in war full stop, but this is, I can see why they slaughtered the Council of Executors. I can see why.
The Orokin continue to pressure Margulis to abandon the children and turn them into weapons of war, and in her rage, she denounces the Orokin. For her crimes of apostasy, Margulis is put to death by the Executors, one of which is her lover, Ballas. The transference project leads to a turn in the wartime efforts, and the sentient forces are turned back. The Zariman children, now called Tenno, are hailed as saviors. The Tenno found the great schools of Naramon, Zenerik, Madurai, Vazarin, and Unairu. It is uncertain what the schools of Penyaga and Konexi were for. In an attempt to profit off the salvage of war, scattered mercantile guilds and smugglers join together in a cultish religion worshipping profit called the Corpus. The cult is denounced by the Seven and is deemed an enemy of the Empire. Sylvanas, experimenting with artificial transference, abandons the Orokin and...
I know, like, Sylvanas is not a common name. Could they not have a different name? Because all I can think of is... the War Chief. That's all I can think of. That's all I can think of. It's there. It's there. Every time I hear it, I'm not going to be able to see it. But, and I guess people who have only ever played this would see Sylvanas in well to be...
to Earth. Using her apothix and custom somatics, she attempts to link with a terraforming forest and bring it under her control. This process rends her mind from her body and leaves her mind stranded within the forest itself. Meanwhile, Rel, having survived his experience on the Zariman 10-0, plots in secret to combat an entity within the void he refers to as the Man in the Wall. Rel believes this entity is an embodiment of the void itself, a timeless, uncaring, all-seeing consciousness that watches our dimension from beyond. Another Tenno, experimenting with the void, attempts to manipulate the fold of the void and standard dimensions at will via an in-between space called the Rift, and is destroyed in the process. A mercenary soldier by the name of Orden...
let me go back to the Limbo one, because that was an awful long time since we did that quest. Good God.
Consciousness that watches our dimension from beyond. Another Tenno, experimenting with the void, attempts to manipulate the fold of the void and standard dimensions at will via an in-between space called the Rift, and is destroyed in the process.
Right.
A mercenary soldier by the name of Orden Karis is hailed by the Orokin for the genocides he has committed in their name, and they award him the honor of an absolution ceremony. Orden, wrought with grief for the horrors he has committed, plots a suicide attack to kill them with concealed bone plugs in his neck and atone for his sins. However, the Orokin elite were anticipating this and laugh at his attempts to destroy the immortal. As punishment for his transgressions, his mind is converted into a digital being known as a Cephalon and is placed into an orbiter compartment as an aid to the Tenno operator. The memories of his old life have been wiped clean by the Orokin and Ballas, and he becomes stallord'S.
Oh, that's fucked
up. The Archimedean Suda begins to suffer memory loss due to her rapidly extended lifespan. In an effort...
Now I feel bad for trying to mute Ordis all the time. Now I feel really bad.
Of his old life have been wiped clean by the Orokin and Ballas, and he becomes stallord'S. The Archimedean Suda begins to suffer memory loss due to her rapidly extended lifespan. In an effort to combat this, she sacrifices her physical form and becomes a Cephalon. Orokin Elite harvest children from Martian colonies for use in their continuity, a process in which they transfer their mind into the bodies of others. A Tenno designated to oversee this process rebels and becomes a savior to the colonies known as Inaros. In an attempt to regain control of the war, the Sentients devise a plan to have Nata, daughter of Hunhao, infiltrate the hierarchy and destroy the Empire and the Tenno from within. Though she succeeds in infiltrating the hierarchy, she learns of Margulis and her actions. Her own sorrow at becoming barren from crossing the gap between Tau and the Origin System drives Nata to become the Lotus, taking on Margulis' appearance and mannerisms. The original Tenno controlling the Mirage Warframe is defeated in battle by the Sentients, and her aura is consumed, killing her permanently.
This is crazy, and again, I apologize for... Actually, no, I'm not sorry for pausing, because I have questions to ask, and, I'm educating myself here, I know. I can see why this is extremely difficult to explain to someone either just getting into the game or maybe has reacted to the cinematic trailer. It's up there, by the way. Ignore the part where I say the game's all about PvP. That's a downfall. Yeah, I can see why I was having issues understanding it myself. It's very heavy and it's very in depth, and I think you do have to play the game and get probably about as far as I have gotten in my series to understand this. But I do like the fact he's talking about the Warframes as well, because now it almost brings a whole new... You're not just acquiring a Warframe or a suit of armor or a suit with certain abilities that you built. You're acquiring a piece of history that belongs in this timeline. That's crazy. That all these Warframes have their own little stories. That's amazing. That's amazing.
As the war progresses,
I do need to rewind to Mirage though.
Drives Nata to become the Lotus, taking on Margulis's appearance and mannerisms. The original Tenno controlling the Mirage Warframe is defeated in battle by the Sentients, and her aura is consumed, killing her permanently. As the war progresses, Ordis begins to see fragments of his old self resurface in his mind, but he stifles them to protect the operator. A sentient attack on an Orokin tower on Earth is repelled, and the sentient's remains are kept dormant by an Orokin technology that cages the remains within. This land later becomes known as the Plains of Eidolon. At some point around this time, the Twin Queens are born to an Orokin elder. They are initially sentenced to death for their twinship, but are spared by their father. The Sentients initiate a false retreat, and Hunhao allows himself to be destroyed above the seas of Uranus. The Orokin believe the war to be over. In their glory, the Orokin emperors descend from their thrones for the Tenno absolution ceremony at the terminus. The Tenno, however, were plotting a coup and slaughter the emperors. The first phase of Hunhao's plan is complete.
Oh, wow.
A low guardian, present at the slaughter, vows revenge against the Tenno for their actions, and later becomes the entity we know as the Stalker. Many Tenno, racked with guilt, willingly enter cryosleep to purge their memories. Many others stay...
This is like, I know that I'm watching this and trying to get... It's just so crazy to me how, like, because all my knowledge was broken, probably isn't going to be at the end of this, and he is really just connecting all the dots. And I know you guys have obviously commented on all my videos, given me information, but when you watch it like this in order, it really connects the dots. Whilst I think a lot of the knowledge that I have is broken because obviously I've learnt it from you guys and you guys have told me it, but then I can't differentiate how this connects with that, etc. Does that make sense? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I love all your comments. I love reading them, and I love being told different lore and stuff from you guys. So keep doing that. Keep doing that. But this is crazy. This is... Do you know when you get like a weird feeling in your head when you kind of learnt something and it all comes together and you're like, whoa. Feels like that. Feels like that. Okay, let's learn more about the Stalker.
...over their actions, and later becomes the entity we know as the Stalker. Many Tenno, racked with guilt, willingly enter...
So who was he? Sorry, I do need to just go back.
Yes, the Orokin believe the war to be over. In their glory, the Orokin emperors descend from their thrones for the Tenno absolution ceremony at the terminus. The Tenno, however, were plotting a coup and slaughter the emperors. The first phase of Hunhao's plan is complete. A low guardian, present at the slaughter, vows revenge against the Tenno for their actions, and later becomes the entity we know as the Stalker. Many Tenno, racked with guilt, willingly enter cryosleep to purge their memories. Many others stay behind. The Lotus betrays Hunhao, sparing the Tenno and failing to initiate the second phase of the sequence, which would revive Hunhao for a surprise assault. Hunhao remains dormant at the bottom of the sea. The Orokin Empire is in disarray with the loss of their leaders, and chaos plagues the system. In an attempt to restore order, the remains of the Congress of Executors tried to reform. At around this time, the event known as the Great Plague begins to spiral out of control. Rel, having formed a cult of believers later known as the Red Veil, rejects his physical form and locks himself in a transference loop within his Warframe. Through this process, Rel restrains the man in the wall within himself. He orders his followers to chain his Warframe and prevent either him or the man in the wall from escaping, locking them in an endless mental struggle. Dax Menz and Lorist Ontella search the city of New Uxmal for Ontella's sister, but the attempt fails when they find that she has been assimilated by the technosite. Executor Avantus and Sectaris Bilsa flee an infested tower, but Avantus is murdered by the Grineer Vaetuk, and Bilsa is captured to pilot for them, as Bilsa possesses the genetic privilege to operate Orokin technology. The Lotus reveals her immense power and hides the moon itself in the void in an attempt to protect the Tenno.
That was badass.
The Grineer forces begin to amass power in the rebellion in the event known as the Uprising, and the remains of the Empire fight to contain it. Surviving leadership is dwindling, and the technology of the system falls into disrepair. The solar railway system is shattered, and much of the infrastructure is rendered unusable due to genetic locks placed by the Orokin elite. Olares attempts to use Bilsa's genetic information to operate the Orokin technology left scattered around the system, but is slaughtered by Vaetuk in an ambush. It is revealed that Bilsa has switched sides and is now working with the Grineer. The Twin Queens, now warriors of the Orokin, become legends to the Grineer for their intense understanding of each other and earn the admiration of the Grineer. The Twin Queens betray the Empire and become the matriarchs for the Grineer Uprising, leading raids on the remaining Orokin colonies. The remains of the Empire scatter in the face of the United Uprising. Many move inwards towards Sol in an attempt to form new colonies. Scavenging parties roam the system under constant oppression from the Grineer matriarchy. Ortis, left derelict for ages by his operator, begins to go mad and his original personality resurfaces. In an effort to combat this, he attempts suicide, but instead fractures his mind into fragments and scatters them, resolute in his plan to await the operator's eventual return. The infestation slows and eventually all but vanishes from the origin system, existing only in scattered pockets beyond the outer terminus in the dark sectors. The Twin Queens prolong their lifespans through the use of continuity. However, their pool of available bodies is mostly Grineer, so they are forced to transfer through bodies often. The Grineer matriarchy is established as the dominating force of the origin system, and the Corpus conglomerate controls much of the commerce. An uneasy balance is struck between the two, and those unaligned with either struggle to eke out a place within the system. Barrow Keetir is born to a simple family on a Martian colony. However, as the Grineer begin their attempts to expand their reach, they slaughter Barrow Keetir's family and leave him mentally scarred, causing him to repress most of his childhood memories. The Myconians, a group of colonists using ancient knowledge from the Orokin era, begin to cultivate technosite by choosing a martyr known as the Triuna, which grants immunity to the infestation, and use this arcane...
Jesus, I mean, I'm definitely going to have to watch this a few times, and probably once I've done and played through more stuff on Warframe, I'm going to have to keep watching it to know what these names mean and know what these cults mean. And
skill to barter with the other factions. Similarly, the Ostrons form a colony on Earth near the plains of Eidolon. Their lack of fear towards the Orokin reliquary allows them to harvest one of the last living towers in the system and sell the byproducts to others for a fee. A mysterious individual known as Olemedai begins to craft statuettes containing information about the Twin Queens and scatters them throughout the system. The Lotus begins to gather the scattered cryopods across the system to restore the Tenno order and prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The Twin Queens enact the Tenno execution program led by Admiral Vor in an attempt to cull the Tenno resurgence. Darvo, a highborn Corpus and son of Frode Beck, renounces his position on the Corpus board and goes rogue. Clem, a Grineer with a birth defect that interferes with his loyalty gene, also goes rogue and evades the Grineer. Dr. Tengus, a Grineer scientist, discovers strains of the technosite virus and experiments with them in an attempt to further Grineer strength. Vor, becoming obsessed with the Tenno and their powers, begins to study the Tenno rather than execute them. This disobedience angers the Queens, and he is demoted to the rank of captain. In a rage, Vor goes to Earth and kills his replacement Boral. Afterwards, he attempts to salvage the recently discovered cryopod on Earth and awakens the player. Vor is killed by the player, but is resurrected by an Orokin artifact in his possession known as the Yanis Key. Believing himself to be blessed by the Void, he travels to the Void itself and becomes a denizen there. The technosite experiments by Dr. Tengus...
We still haven't seen Voidy Vor yet. We haven't seen him. So we're going to have to take a trip to the Void when we have Avara, I think.
Spiral out of control, and the infestation surges throughout the system once more. The Corpus begin to experiment with Orokin technology and develop fusion MOAs to augment their forces. The Grineer develop surveillance systems to aid in preventing Tenno incursions. The Grineer and Corpus tensions begin to increase, spurred on by direct antagonization from the Corpus head of Grineer relations, Alad V. The Grineer discover a massive stockpile of Corpus resources and mount a full-scale Fomorian assault. The assault is repelled by the Tenno, and in the process it is discovered that the Corpus hold information about hidden Grineer settlements on Phobos. To hide this information, the Corpus risk traveling through void storms, but the Tenno prove resilient and secure it in spite of their attempts to flee. With the Tenno discovery of their settlements on Phobos, and Alad V violating the Queen's contract and hoarding Tenno cryopods for himself, the Grineer Sargus Rook declares all-out war against the Corpus. Their war revolves around Mars and is known as the Gradavis Dilemma. Both sides attempt to enlist Tenno mercenaries to aid in their cause. Despite their bribery, the Corpus are defeated and Mars is claimed by the Grineer. Alad V flees with his hoarded cryopods to Jupiter and attempts to evade both the Tenno seeking to reclaim the pods and the Corpus board seeking to collect on the debts Alad incurred in the Gradavis Dilemma. Alad attempts to earn favor from the board once more by using the pods on a Zanuka project that will revolutionize Corpus proxy development. Frode Beck, once mentored by Alad, is fearful to lose his potential position as Corpus board CEO and agrees to help the Tenno find Alad and stop him from completing his project. The Tenno fail to stop Alad from dissecting and repurposing the Tenno in cryosleep, but manage to destroy the Zanuka prototype and kill Alad V. Darvo, having stolen a cache of weapons from the Stalker, enlists the Tenno in warding him off. Meanwhile, the Grineer led by Counselor Vehek, having struggled for decades to conquer Earth's hyper-aggressive forests, plot to poison the Earth itself with Hex Cicero toxin and kill large swaths of the planet's flora in one fell swoop. Heck's plot is foiled by the Tenno, and he flees to Ceres to recover. The Corpus, after attacking a small independent research facility near Eris, discover the process to recreate an Orokin-era alloy called Oxium that is lighter than air, but extremely resilient. They utilize this alloy to augment their Osprey drones and bolster their proxy forces. Darvo is then captured by the Corpus at the behest.
Is there an easy way to get Oxium, by the way? Because I need a ton of it for the new Mantis ship, I believe. I need about 1,400, and I've got about 400. And it was a pain getting it for the Arcwing segment, I'm going to say. The Arcwing segment. That was a real pain. So, I know I had to farm Osprey Oxium drones. And that sucked. That took ages just to get like 400. So, any tips would be perfect, thank you.
Behest of his father, Frode Beck. Frode intends to bring him back into the fold and groom him for a position on the board once more. However, Darvo is rescued by the Tenno before he can be brought back to Frode. Counselor Vehek, having fled to Ceres, begins his plan to redevelop the Fomorian fleet and conquer the Origin system in the name of the Queens with overwhelming force. The Tenno managed to destroy most of the Fomorian power cores and greatly slow the development of the fleet. Ergo Glast, a pupil of Frode Beck, develops the Animo learning processors with the intention to use its rapid learning to alleviate much of the system's hardships. However, he is disgusted by the Corpus and their willingness to profit off of suffering, and leaves the cult to form the Perrin sequence. The Red Veil becomes a target of both the Grineer and the Corpus, and their members are systematically captured throughout the system. Cantus, a member of the Red Veil, reaches out to the Tenno for assistance in rescuing the captured members. The Lotus discovers numerous Corpus ships attempting to fly undetected outside of the normal shipping lanes and sends the Tenno to investigate. The Tenno discover that the ships are secret developments by Alad V, who survived the encounter on Jupiter. It is discovered that Alad is using these ships as a method to experiment with Technocyte, ignoring the Corpus doctrine that forbids experimentation with infested biotech. Alad continues his experimentation and develops hives, which function as rapid breeding grounds for infestation, attempting to use them to gain a strategic foothold near Eris. Sometime later, Alad completes the new Mutalis strain of Technocyte. This strain is capable of assimilating machinery and technology as well as biological material, and Alad intends to control it to dominate the system. Alad willingly allows himself to be assimilated by the Mutalist infestation, believing that he can control it. However, it proves too much for him, and he goes mad. The Mutalist incursion is halted and contained to Eris, and Alad goes into hiding once more. Jordis, a third frigate ship Cephalon, is consumed by the...
Okay, so in my series, I don't think we've actually come across infested Alad V. I think the most we came across him was when we farmed Valkyr. Valkyrie or Valkyrie? 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 One or two? So that was probably a spoiler for me, but that's cool. I think I would rather... I mean, there can't be many more spoilers in 3 minutes. That's the first big spoiler that I've seen, anyway. But I'm excited to play through that.
Infestation and used as its mouthpiece. At this point, Vahek's Fomorian fleet is nearing completion, and the Tenno are without a means to stop it. A mysterious individual contacts the Tenno, promising to give them Old War Orokin technology that will aid in stopping the fleet, should the Tenno be willing to assist. Darvo then reveals that the mysterious individual is Barrow-Keetir attempting to be mysterious, and ruins his mystique out of personal spite. Barrow-Keetir delivers the Orokin information as promised, and it is discovered that it is an Old War technology that facilitates single-person space combat, called Arkwing. However, the technology is corrupted by centuries of decay, and the Tenno attempt to salvage more information. The Grineer also learn of this technology, and in an attempt to stop it, begin to rapidly open torsion beam portals across the system, searching for salvage sites and destroying them before the Tenno can reach them. The Tenno manage to reclaim the technology and also create the relays as massive displays of resistance to the Grineer and the Corpus in the system. Furious at this display of arrogance, Vahek unleashes his Fomorian fleet with the intent to destroy the relays, but is repelled by the Tenno and their new Arkwing technology. Later, a Corpus conman by the name of Nef Anyo begins a large-scale money-making scheme that preys on the superstitious and the uninformed. Claiming himself to be a prophet of profit and messenger of the void, he collects tithes across the system with his new Bursa proxies, but is stopped by the Tenno in short order. In a moment of lucidity, Alad V reaches out to the Tenno for help in curing himself of the Mutalist infestation. This search leads him to Tilregor's cloning labs, which specialize in genetic therapy and experimentation. Nef Anyo once again appears, beseeching the Tenno to destroy the cure and allow Alad to rot, but Alad inevitably finds the cure and frees himself of his infested bonds. The Black Seed, a fringe Corpus group that ignores profit and is dedicated to undermining the board, raids Alad V's labs and steals infested Juggernaut spores, intending to spread them in Corpus facilities. With the help of Frode Beck, the group is stopped by the Tenno and pushed into hiding, but some Juggernaut spores remain unaccounted for. The Corpus proxies, having been developed to learn and think in direct opposition to old Orokin principles, managed to become unaffected by their limiters and rebel. The Tenno managed to cull their numbers, and the Corpus bring them back under control once more. Later, Alad, calling in the favor he earned in the second dream, begs the Tenno to protect him from the Stalker's acolytes, sent to kill Alad in retaliation for his actions during the second dream. The acolytes are repelled, and Alad escapes into hiding once again. Later, a group of Steel Meridian soldiers is kidnapped by the sadistic Kelida Tame and sentenced to trial by combat called Rathum. Cressatal reaches out to the Tenno, who compete on behalf of the Meridian and defeat the Rathum trials. Infuriated, Kelida Tame challenges the Tenno directly and is killed, sowing seeds of doubt amongst those within the Grineer armies. And that is the current timeline of events in Warframe, not including quests themselves, as their progression is ultimately decided by the players. This timeline will likely change as information becomes more available, but until the time comes when we have all the facts, this is what we know.
Wow, that was crazy, was it not? I know you guys have probably seen it, but I mean, that was mad. I'm obviously trying to put the pieces together still, and I think I need to play through a lot of the side quests. And I am going to react to the videos in the codex as well. I know a few of you have mentioned those. I am going to look at those and see them. I might even do those during the Avara reveal when I finally get her. But this is crazy. This was a really good video. Do let me know if there are any other videos by stallordD that I need to watch, because I'm all about it. I'm quite happy to watch. I love lore videos, as I say. But yeah, I've actually learnt quite a bit there. I think I'm going to need to watch it another one or two more times just to get my head around it. It's heavy, it's enjoyable, and it does what it needs to do. It's really, really cool. There's not much more to say on that. Thank you for recommending it. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't wait to actually see more. So do let me know in the comments if there is any others that I need to see. That would be awesome. I'm going to obviously head off now. And yeah, I will see you in the next one, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.